time of 6 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Central. Victory News. Facts, faith, freedom.
And welcome to Victory News on this Monday, June the 2nd, 2025. I'm Greg Stevens along with Mike Garofalo and Tim Fox. Fiora Hernandez is out on assignment, and these are the stories that we're watching for you right now. Senator Josh Hawley shares Secret Service testimony stating Joe Biden would get lost in his closet at the White House. Conservative talk show host Jeff Crouere joins us on this and more. And Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth warns of a devastating impact if China attacks Taiwan. Ahead, we'll ask retired Marine and VETCOM CEO Kate Monroe about stability in the region and more. But first, let's look at the headlines. A peaceful Sunday afternoon in Boulder, Colorado became anything but when a man reportedly yelled "Free Palestine" and used what's being called as a makeshift flamethrower to attack people holding a regularly scheduled vigil for the Israeli hostages still being held in Gaza. The governor of Colorado, a Democrat, and local FBI field agents quickly made it clear they considered this to be a terrorist attack.
I'm able to confirm there are 6 victims, ages 67 to 88. All of them have been transported to local hospitals. This attack happened at a regularly scheduled weekly peaceful event. Witnesses are reporting that the subject used a makeshift flamethrower and threw an incendiary device into the crowd. The suspect was heard to yell "Free Palestine" during the attack.
The agent in charge of the Denver field office, Mike Mililek, identified the suspect taken into custody as 45-year-old Mohammed Sabir Solomon, an Egyptian national. He later changed the injury total to 8, 1 in critical condition. The attack took place a little more than a week after 2 young Israeli embassy staffers were killed outside of a Washington, D.C. museum, with the suspect from Chicago yelling, "I did it for Palestine." Tim?
Greg, 6 people, including a federal employee, have been charged in a fraud scheme targeting the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, also known as SNAP. The DOJ press release from Thursday says the U.S. Department of Agriculture employee Arlasa Davis conspired with others to steal government funds. They allegedly did so by allowing stores that were not on the list to have electronic benefits transfer terminals to dispense SNAP benefits. Davis is accused of receiving cash bribes from 2022 through at least March of this year. The Department of Justice called the operation a sprawling fraud and bribery scheme that generated over $66 million in unauthorized transactions. Now, one of the largest food stamp frauds in history. If convicted on all accounts, Davis could face up to 75 years in prison. President Donald Trump shared positive economic data courtesy of CNBC on Friday. During a live segment on CNBC Squawk Box, analyst Rick Santelli expressed surprise at the March 2025 U.S. trade deficit figures, which came in at $87.6 billion. Now, that was much lower than the expected $143 billion. And here's the president in the Oval Office on Friday touting more economic good news.
Rick Santelli, this just came out, and we'll just play that for a second.
Personal income is up 0.8%. That is almost triple the expectations. I'll tell you, the income numbers, really, for the first 4 months of the year, they're stellar.
March's trade deficit numbers marked a significant drop from February's trade deficit of $123.2 billion and a dramatic improvement from previous months, including a record-high $162 billion deficit. Santelli highlighted how these numbers reflect major changes in the movement of goods and services likely influenced by President Donald Trump's tariff policies. Although the U.S. Court of International Trade last week blocked some of Trump's tariffs, the Federal Circuit Court of Appeals issued a stay, allowing them to proceed for now. The Trump administration announced Friday that it was canceling 24 awards previously initiated by President Joe Biden and the Office of Clean Energy Demonstrations. Reportedly, the cancellation will generate over $3 billion in taxpayer savings. Newsmax noted the majority of the awards entailed funding for carbon capture and sequestration, or CCS, and decarbonization initiatives. Chris Wright, Secretary of U.S. Department of Energy, said nearly 70% of the projects were signed between Election Day of 2024 and January 20th of 2025. Now, Bloomberg reported the agency said the move came after after it found the projects failed to advance the energy needs of the American people. They were not economically viable and would not generate a positive return on investments of taxpayer dollars. Mike?
Tim, President Trump continued his America First agenda on Friday when he visited Pennsylvania. Here he is at the U.S. Steel plant, or headquarters in Pittsburgh, saying he will double the 25% tariff on imported steel, extending his trade battle to protect American-made steel that began in March.
We are going to be imposing a 25% increase. We're going to bring it from 25% to 50%, the tariffs on steel into the United States of America, which will even further secure the steel industry in the United States. Nobody's going to get around that.
The announcement came during a speech celebrating the partnership between Japan's Nippon Steel and U.S. Steel that helped save, listen to this, 10,000 jobs in Pennsylvania. Nippon will reportedly invest a planned $1 billion to help improve U.S. steel facilities. Since President Trump's reciprocal tariffs began in March, U.S. employment in the fabricated metals sector has increased, and the Department of Labor reports raw steel production has increased 6%. A bit of a going-away party at the Oval Office on Friday for founder of the Department of Government Efficiency, Elon Musk.
Elon gave an incredible service. Nobody like him. And he had to go through the slings and the arrows, which is a shame because he's an incredible patriot. The good news is that 90% of the country knows that, and they appreciate it, and they really appreciate what he did.
Without question, the Tesla and SpaceX founder's time as a special government employee came to an end after about a 130-day or so limit was reached. Here is President Trump presenting the man some refer to as the Thomas Edison of our day with a key to the White House.
But the Doge team will only grow stronger over time. The Doge influence will only grow stronger. I'd liken it to sort of Buddhism. It's like a way of life. So it is permeating throughout the government, and I'm confident that over time we'll see $1 trillion of savings and a reduction in $1 trillion of waste and fraud reduction.
Musk says so far his Doge team has saved the federal government at least $160 billion, maybe $170 billion at this point. And when it comes to the cost-saving findings of Doge, President Trump made it clear he wants to codify that into legislation. A top United States military general warned Thursday that terror groups in Africa are ramping up their ability to conduct attacks right here in the United States. And General Michael Langley, head of U.S. Africa Command, warned during a digital press briefing that terrorist groups in Africa are rapidly growing and increasing their ability to launch attacks on the U.S. homeland. The general identified the Sahel region as the current epicenter of global terrorism, citing alarming growth in groups like al-Qaeda in the Islamic area and others, which have tripled or quadrupled in size since 2022. General Langley emphasized the strategic goal that is, of these terror groups is to gain access to West Africa's coastline, which would allow them to expand smuggling, human trafficking, and arms trading operations, generating revenue and facilitating terrorism exports. Langley also highlighted a geopolitical competition with China and Russia for influence in Africa. Greg.
Thank you, Mike. Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth warned Friday that devastating consequences would unfold should China decide to invade Taiwan. Hegseth's remarks came during an International Institute for Strategic Studies Shangri-La Dialogue event in Singapore, where he pointed to China's preparedness to invade its neighboring island democracy by 2027.
Again, to be clear, any attempt by Communist China to conquer Taiwan by force would result in devastating consequences for the Indo-Pacific and the world. There's no reason to sugarcoat it. The threat China poses is real, and it could be imminent. We hope not, but it certainly could be.
On Sunday, China's foreign ministry spokesperson criticized the United States for having a Cold War mentality and accused the United States of stoking flames and creating tensions. The secretary added that the U.S. was not seeking a war with Communist China, but the United States wouldn't be pushed out of the critical region or allow our allies and partners to be intimidated. Joining us now is the CEO of VetCom USA, an important service for disabled veterans, and the author of The Race to Save America, Kate Monroe. We've got a lot to talk about with you today. Here we go. Listen to Admiral Samuel Papero, the commander of the United States Indo-Pacific Command, address the growing military threat of China to Taiwan.
The People's Republic of China is in the midst of the largest military buildup since the end of the Second World War, and maybe, just on scale, maybe ever.
Now, based on the Admiral and Secretary Hagsted's comments, do you think China's military drills near Taiwan were just that, drills and exercises, or was there rehearsal for something else?
Well, I think it's both. And what they're doing is doing a show of force. They're signaling to us, hey, we have the ability to do this. Make sure that you see us. We want to make sure that we get in your way and let you know that we are willing to go to war with Taiwan. But I think the more pressing issue here really is, what I was sent here to review this topic was MSN, right? And they are regurgitating what China says. You have to wonder why our left media is more willing to go after and support our enemies and not really be an ally to their own country. That's the most concerning thing to me. I know that if it came down to it, we would step in and do what we have to do and impede China's progress with Taiwan. But our own country, our own media is in some ways against our own agenda of protecting our national security. And that's a bigger concern to me.
You have a right to be concerned. It concerns us. That's why we do what we do. Let's discuss a shocking major story today. The attack by an Egyptian illegal immigrant on Jewish people in Boulder, Colorado. He burned several protesters with that makeshift blowtorch. Kate, in the last 3 months, a man sought to burn the Pennsylvania Governor Shapiro to death. Then another pro-Hamas supporter killed a young Jewish couple in Washington, D.C. And now this blowtorch attack in Colorado. These acts are brazen and murderous. What do we need to do in the United States to protect our people from this?
Well, we need to get these people out of our country immediately. I don't really understand the passivity. I understand that this administration is getting thousands of people out, but there's 40 to 50 million illegal immigrants in our country. Not to say that all of them have ill will toward our country. Some of them legitimately are, seeking asylum. They're trying to make a better way for their lives. But we have said 200,000 terrorists were released very easily into the United States. This is just one of many people that should have never made their way onto our soil. It's very concerning to me that we have little or no plan to round up these 200,000 people. We have to do more. We are being so passive in this way. And I always said, what's it going to take? Somebody in your community, your kids, the people that you love, for us to stand up? Well, now look what's going on. And I'm saying that the left media hates the fact that this is an illegal migrant. They're like, damn it, because this runs against our false narrative. We have to do more. I just can't believe that we got this way because of the last administration. But hopefully this administration does what it takes.
He claimed he was afraid to go back to Egypt, but he was not afraid to torch people in Boulder, Colorado. Now, Ukraine carried out the biggest ever swarm drone attack on multiple Russian airfields, claiming over 40 aircraft, damaging and destroying as far as 2,800 miles inside of Russia. Kate, what do you think about this whole thing with Russia, the peace agreement? Does this harm it or help it? Is this a Pearl Harbor event for Russia?
I don't think that this is going to go toward, trying to have peace in that region. I really don't understand. On our side, we're saying, oh, look, they're having peace talks and it looks like we're going to clean this up. Meanwhile, they're still bombing each other to this degree. I mean, not only are they bombing people here, they're taking out millions and millions of dollars of Russia's aircraft, which I can't think Putin sitting there thinking, hey, you know what I'm going to do today? Let's go and have a chat with Zelensky and be peaceable about this matter. I really don't think that either side is being genuine in seeking peace. I think they're only doing it because we're sort of forcing the hand in this region. We're sort of saying, you get your whole peace talk together, but they're kind of saying, no, we're not really going to try to do that. We're at war.
Yeah, that's what it looks like. Learn more about Kate's work with disabled veterans by visiting vetcom.us and discover her vision to change the race to save America. You can go to racetosaveamerica.com. Great to see you again today, Kate. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Mike?
Greg, an LGBTQ activist who was supporting a biological male competing in the girls' high school track and field championships in California on Friday was arrested after assaulting women's sports advocate outside of the venue, according to police. Ethan Kroll, a 19-year-old LGBTQ activist, allegedly hit women's sports supporter Josh Fulfer's car with a pink and blue flagpole multiple times, shattering a window. Fulfer then used pepper spray to protect himself and his family, who is sitting in the car. Kroll is alleged allegedly upset that Fulfer was supporting women in girls sports and was protesting against A.B. Hernandez, the biological male competing in the championship meet. Kroll was arrested for assault with a weapon, vandalism, as well as obstructing an officer. The controversy broke out after Hernandez competed in the girls' events, bumping biological females out of the top slots at the competition. Hernandez was allowed to compete after the CIF announced a pilot rule change for those championships, allowing the girls that were bumped out of qualifying by Hernandez to medal and compete in those championships. If Hernandez placed in the top 3 in the final event, an extra medal would be awarded to the next biological female. Hernandez won titles in all 3 events he competed in, winning titles in the high jump, the triple jump, and placing second in the long jump. Tim.
Mike, one of the country's biggest school districts reportedly gave taxpayer cash to Planned Parenthood in fiscal year 2023-2024 to train teachers that the biological sex is a myth. According to the Daily Caller, documents from the Philadelphia School District showed Planned Parenthood Southeastern Pennsylvania was paid $40,000 in CDC HIV grant funds. It was reportedly used to provide up to 70 trainings which support medical sex changes in children and decry biological sex as a myth. The funds for the Planned Parenthood chapter were derived from a $2.6 million multi-year CDC grant for a school-based HIV prevention program. Now, Erica Sanzi with Defending Education told the Daily Caller, too many people remain unaware that Planned Parenthood has become a primary player in the youth gender industry and uses schools as the vehicle into the minds of children. Travelers flying into and out of Newark Liberty International Airport can breathe a sigh of relief today. One of their 2 main runways is slated to reopen this morning after having been completely closed since April 15th. Now, an announcement about runway 4L22R reopening 2 weeks early was made at the end of last week. On Friday, Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy posted the following: the new runway at Newark Liberty International Airport finished nearly 2 weeks ahead of schedule. Amazing job, Port Authority of New York and New Jersey. They've been great partners. With the runway completed at US DOT, we'll continue our work to harden the telecoms infrastructure and improve the staffing pipeline for the airspace. Now, the runway had been scheduled to reopen on June 15th after a $121 million worth of upgrades. Despite the fact that the runway is complete, ABC7 is reporting the FAA reduction in flight schedule will remain in place until October 25th, when more air traffic controllers will have completed their training. Now, normally 77 flights land and take off at Newark each hour. The number was lowered recently to 56. Now, with the runway ready for reopening, that number should now jump to 68 per hour. Greg?
The Federal Housing Finance Agency Director, William Pulte, sent the Federal Reserve a blunt message last week: cut interest rates now. Reportedly, Pulte took to X to unleash his frustration as the slowest spring housing market in decades, writing this quote: Jay Powell needs to lower interest rates. Enough is enough. President Trump has crushed Biden's inflation, and there is no reason not to lower the rates. The housing market would be in much better shape if Chairman Powell does this. Pulte isn't just another voice criticizing interest rates. He oversees Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac and the federal home loan banks, as well as having his own long-standing career in home building as one of the country's largest home builders, Pulte Group. President Trump jumped in the fray, writing on Truth Social, quote, housing market chief Pulte sends blunt message on Fed interest rate cuts, thestreet.com/Fed/housing-mark. Mike?
You got that right, Greg. A new report says Joe Biden couldn't find his way out of his own closet, according to the New York Post. Missouri Senator Josh Hawley revealed Friday that a Secret Service whistleblower claimed former President Joe Biden was so mentally impaired while in office that he would get lost in his closet at the White House.
But this Secret Service whistleblower actually was assigned to Biden, and he told me that Biden used to get lost in his closet in the mornings in the White House. I mean, the guy literally stumbling around in the White House residence couldn't find his way out of his own closet. The President of the United States.
Hawley described this alleged incident as part of a broader cover-up of Biden's cognitive decline, which he labeled one of the biggest scandals in presidential history. Hawley said the whistleblower was personally assigned to Biden and shared the claim during Hawley's investigation into attempts on President Trump's life. The disclosure coincides with ongoing congressional investigations into Biden's mental fitness and the extent to which White House staff may have acted independently, including possibly unauthorized use of an auto pen to sign official documents. House Oversight Chair James Comer is also seeking the testimony of Dr. Kevin O'Connor. That's Joe Biden's White House physician as part of that probe. Right now, let's talk with the host of Ringside Politics on Real America's Voice and WGSO Radio in New Orleans, Jeff Crouere. Welcome to Victory News. Let's dive straight into this, Jeff. The result of the story we just heard was unknown people running the White House. House Oversight Chair James Comer described how 4 people who may have helped use the auto pen to sign government documents are being called to Capitol Hill.
Well, we've identified the 4 staffers that we believe were the ones who actually took the documents and placed them in the auto pen, pressed power, and had Joe Biden's signature magically appear on these. We want to know who gave them the authority to do that, and we want them to walk us through the exact process.
Former President Biden's White House physician, Kevin O'Connor, also being called to testify. What do you think we're going to discover when these 5 show up on Capitol Hill?
Well, we need to discover the truth. This is the biggest scandal in American history. So we had sort of a Politburo of 5 people running the country. It wasn't Joe Biden. He didn't know what he was signing. He didn't know who he was pardoning. He didn't know how to get off a stage. He didn't know how to get out of his closet. I mean, we could see him during his 4 years deteriorate mentally and physically, stumbling and fumbling and bumbling. And obviously, it put us all at great risk, because we didn't know who our president was, and certainly we don't know who was really making the decisions. So Republicans need to be aggressive, and they need to get to the bottom of this. We need the DOJ involved. We need to get some answers for the American people. This is inexcusable. The 25th Amendment should have been implemented long time ago, before the midterms, but it wasn't. Yeah. So this is a scandal of historic proportions.
It is, without question. All right, Jeff, President Trump visited Pennsylvania late last week to celebrate the planned partnership between U.S. Steel and Nippon Steel of Japan, bringing $1 billion of investment to aging steelworks in the Keystone State. Reactions from American steelworkers was positive.
And President Trump, what he did today is, it's presidential.
It's like early Christmas, man, here in the Mon Valley, and he's protecting at least 11,000 jobs for Pennsylvania.
I feel that today we saved steel in Pittsburgh.
That's pretty awesome. Jeff, if the president's tariff increases help save and create jobs like this, why is President Trump facing constant pushback for them?
That is a great question. I mean, he's trying to create reciprocal tariffs so that there is fair trade. We can't have free trade without fair trade. He's trying to bring jobs and manufacturing back to America. He's saving U.S. Steel, creating a partnership with a Japanese steel company, saving jobs, creating investment. He's brought in over $10 trillion in new investment into this country. I think the policy is working brilliantly. I mean, what he does is he threatens these countries. If you don't lower your tariffs, you don't work with us, we're going to institute these high tariffs. They know they can't do that. This is the #1 consumer market in the world. So it's very effective, and I think it's worked very well.
And the key here, Jeff, I think, is he's being a businessman, not a politician. All right, moving on. Democrat Representative Hakeem Jeffries appeared on CNN, Jeff, on Sunday to whip up fear over Donald Trump's big, beautiful bill.
Actually, if it ever were to be implemented into law, hospitals will close, nursing homes will shut down, and people will literally die. It takes food out of the mouths of children, seniors, and veterans.
I hope you listen to that closely. Now, Jeff, you have a new column on townhall.com today entitled Democrats Fixate on Trump but Ignore the Voters. Is this an example of that?
Yes. All the Democrats can do is just demonize Donald Trump. I mean, all they do is talk about Donald Trump. They talk about nothing about helping the American people. So it's demonizing Trump, lying about what he's doing, trying to, get people fearful about his agenda. And it's really hurting the Democrats because, I mean, I've looked at the polls. I mentioned them in the column. Democrats are not doing well. The American people do not see leadership in the Democrat Party at all because they just talk about Donald Trump. So it's a party that is failing and its leadership is failing. And I think that Republicans could reverse historic trends and possibly hold on to the Congress in the midterms if the Democrats keep doing what they're doing.
Be sure to check out Jeff's column on townhall.com and learn more about his perspective on other issues at Crouere.net, or follow him on X at Jeff Crouere. Always a pleasure to have you on Victory News, Jeff.
Thanks so much.
You bet, Tim.
Mike, 2 foreign nationals and a U.S. resident have been indicted for trying to smuggle sensitive U.S. military technology into China, and in a plot to stalk and harass a U.S.-based critic of President Xi Jinping. According to the Department of Justice, 43-year-old Sui Guanghai of China, as well as 63-year-old John Miller of the United Kingdom and a permanent resident of the U.S., are being charged with multiple crimes, including interstate stalking, smuggling, and export violations and violations of the Arms Export Control Act. Guanghai and Miller are accused of trying to smuggle missiles, air defense radars, drones, and cryptographic devices to China's People's Liberation Army. They are also charged with recruiting 2 people in 2023 to stop a critic of President Xi from openly protesting at an APEC summit. Sui and Miller were arrested in Belgrade, Serbia, and are in the process of being extradited to the U.S. Both are facing 20 years behind bars. The bodies of 5 musicians who were kidnapped near the U.S.-Mexico border have been found, badly burned, and with authorities saying the Mexican drug cartels are to blame. According to officials, members of the band Grupo Fugitivo in Reynosa were on their way to perform at a private event when they were kidnapped by the Gulf Cartel in Reynosa, Tamaulipas, which is a border city near McAllen, Texas. The families say they last heard from the band on Sunday night when they arrived to the gig, but it turned out to be an empty lot, leading investigators to believe that it was a setup. Mexican authorities have arrested 9 suspects linked to the Los Metros faction of the Gulf Cartel, which is the group that controls that area. The U.S. State Department has issued a travel warning for Tamaulipas, saying that they are at risk of crime and kidnapping. Greg?
All right, a new Trump administration-backed aid program in Gaza has pleasantly surprised Gazans who pick up food packages because they're now getting them for free. Breitbart reports the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation was launched as an alternative to the United Nations Relief and Works Agency, which had been either failing to deliver aid or let Hamas steal the supplies and keep it for themselves or sell it at inflated cost to the Gazans. This video is from one of the Gaza distribution sites where people had gotten through a Hamas roadblock to get aid and were purportedly shouting, "Thank you, America." That's some good news. Phone number on the bottom of the screen, 877-281-6297. 877-281-6297 is the number you can call right now, and a licensed, trained prayer minister will pray with you concerning anything that's going on in your life. That example of what we're doing in Gaza is an example of love, that love never fails, taking the crooked people out of the way with the food distribution. What we saw in Boulder is not love, that's hate. We must stand up, we must speak up, we must do something about it. We need to pray about it. Call the number and somebody will pray with you as well. Terrorism must stop in the name of Jesus. Our thanks here and everywhere. Our thanks to Kate Monroe, Jeff Crouere, and especially you. Thanks for joining. We return at 5 Eastern, 4 Central with Miami GOP Congress Committee woman Angie Wong and podcast host and Mass Exodus Movement founder Keisha King. Make sure you're here as well. The world reports the problem. Victory Channel brings the answer. Whatever's born of God overcomes the world. And this is the victory that's overcome the world, our faith. That's 1 John chapter 5 and verse 4. Stay in faith. That is your victory. And God bless you. And we'll look for you this evening at 5 Eastern. Bye for now.